It's the last day of basketball inside Baylor's Ferrell Center. So let's go back to the first day, shall we? This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Locked On Baylor. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, and today is the final day for basketball at the Ferrell Center. So I wanted to get someone who was there on the very first day. Now, President Reagan was not available for this interview here in the year of our Lord 2023. So what we did instead was found the other president that was in the photo with him at the Ferrell Center day number one, now Tulsa City Councilman Phil Lakin. Phil, does it feel weird 35 years later to still be talking about that opening day ceremony at the Ferrell Center?
It completely feels weird. I thought that it would be a one-day event, but the event has really survived. And it's amazing how many times Reagan and I, or elements of Reagan's visit, end up on the internet. Heck, we didn't even know the internet would be around back then.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, you weren't thinking the word internet, I don't think, back then. Right. But it's kind of funny for those of you who aren't on Twitter, and I know there are a few, and sometimes that gets lost in these days, the people that aren't on Twitter. But I actually put out this tweet the other day that was saying that, hey, President Reagan was there at the first day. So why don't, as I'm trying to pull it up here, why don't we get him on the show? Kind of, haha, very funny. Cam Stewart, great humor. And I pulled up this picture with Reagan with the Letterman jacket, or the bomber jacket that says "Our Baylor Bear" in the White House as he went to cut the ribbon and cut off that day. And someone tweeted back, why don't you get the other guy in the picture? And there he is right there, Phil Lakin. Phil,
same haircut today.
Yeah, but looking great.
I just couldn't modify it whatsoever.
Hey, you've lost less of it than I have. That's why I got to wear the hat every time. So, Phil, tell me about why you were on the stage with President Reagan and representing Baylor that day.
Yeah, well, at the very end of my junior year semester, I decided to run for student body president. And I really didn't want to run. I had already, just said no to the whole idea. But I decided to run. And luckily, I got elected. And so I was student body president, and I thought that I was going to have to camp out just like every other kid had to camp out. So I was prepared to, pitch the tent, wait in long lines, and get the best seat in the Ferrell Center that I could. And I don't know how this came over. This probably came, by President Reynolds, the president of the university at the time, calling me on my phone in my dorm room. But he called me and said, hey, I need you to be part of the dignitary group that greets and welcomes President Reagan to the Ferrell Center. Absolutely. I'll be there. What do I do? How long do I have to talk? What do you want me to do? And so we went through that whole thing, and that's how and why I got to give him that jacket that says "Our Baylor Bear in the White House."
Yeah, I'm surprised you jumped at that opportunity. I don't know, meeting the president, that seems like a pretty run-of-the-mill thing. Yeah.
Got class that day.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get out of this exam, President. I don't know. But going back to that day, it's September 22nd of 1988. It's a humongous day in the community, obviously, to have the president in town, but for Baylor specifically as well. Take me through, okay, you're going to be part of the dignitary group. You wake up that morning. What is that day like for you and for the Baylor campus?
Yeah, we were just so energized by knowing that he was going to come on campus, because he was everything to most of us. I know not every kid on campus had the same attitude about him that I did, but he really guided us through a lot of real pivotal events in our lives. So we got to see the beginning of the fall of communism. He was there when the Challenger disaster occurred. So the space shuttle had blown up, and he was there comforting the world and comforting us. That happened when I was a freshman at Baylor. So there were just a lot of things that he was responsible for during my time at Baylor and previous to that we all kind of looked up to him for. And to believe that we were going to get to see him in person was just a an unreal expectation that we can't really believe that he's really going to come to Waco, to our campus, where we can see him and inaugurate this thing that we've never been in as well. So the Ferrell Center, it was all brand new to us. It wasn't just seeing the president, but it was seeing the inside of this really nice, beautiful arena compared to what we were playing basketball and having events in.
For sure. And before looking at the actual arena, I know the Gipper was quick with a joke and was pretty well known for that. Did he have anything to say when you handed over the jacket and shook his hand?
Yeah, well, that's a funny experience. I tell this story on myself. So, he had just given this great speech. I think balloons were getting ready to come down. The student body was going wild. I got up and I had probably 30 seconds worth of things to say. And I said, my 20 seconds worth of things. And then I said, and I have this jacket that says, "Our Baylor Bear in the White House." And when I said that, everybody went crazy. So I couldn't even finish what I was going to say, which I'm sure was really great. But I presented him with that jacket and he took it and he whispered something into my ear, but I couldn't hear what he said. So to the President of the United States, I said, "What?" Like, what? And instead of "excuse me" or "pardon me" or anything else.
Huh?
And as I was saying "what" to him in a question, I was trying to get those words back. I don't think he heard me, but I still didn't want to offend the President of the United States and my hero. But he said it again. And he said, "I'm going to put this jacket in my presidential library," which is really great. And I hope it's there. I don't know where it'd be. I hope it's right at the front so everybody can see it. But he put it over his shoulders. I know when he was walking out, which got a great round of applause out of the crowd, as you might imagine. And so, it was just him holding that jacket with the green and gold and with Baylor Bear on it as well, which was really, really cool and special.
That's just got to be such a surreal moment. I know we had talked about this before we rolled on camera here, but is this something you still talk about at parties, that you still take with you 35 years later?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've got many pictures around my office, even at home. My parents have a picture in their home. And then, just like I said, it's just amazing how many times it will come up and be circulated via social media. So my Pledge brothers will circulate it every once in a while and you poke at me more than anything else. And then the university just uses it to look back at a really memorable time on campus as well.
And look, it's a great picture, Phil. I mean, it really is. Like, you guys are both very candid. It's a great look. I know you've got one from the other angle. Oh, you've got it. Yes, you've got it here. So if you're watching on YouTube,
it's I think the best picture of that moment that was taken. So the White House sent this, which I think it really is hand signed.
Letter
maybe
from
signed by a
President
machine,
Reagan,
but I've checked it many, many times to see if there's a little impression of his name and last name. But the White House took this from behind the stage. And so it does a really, really great job of showing the crowd and what it really looked like to me and to him in Ferrell Center that day. So, this is ultra special for me and something that I've always kept in my office and with me very close.
And what is kind of funny about it is it's obviously the first day of the Ferrell Center. It's probably the biggest event ever to be at the Ferrell Center. It doesn't get much bigger than the president coming there. So that is the first day of the Ferrell Center, as we lament on this, the last day of basketball, at least at the Ferrell Center. But what I want to get into next is talking about kind of how important that was for the university and what that building meant, more so than just a place to play basketball. So we're going to have that coming up after this. If you are looking for tickets in the new Foster Pavilion, let me introduce you, if you haven't already, to the Game Time app. It is the #1 place for ticket buying. It takes all the guesswork out of it. I know you've had those times where you're just like, can I get the price or can I see my seats? Why am I jumping through hoops to get these tickets? I'm ready to give you my money. And these ticket companies, they get more and more complex. Game Time is not the place for that. If you want to go have an easy ticket buying experience, Game Time's the only one. If you don't want that, all right, fine, go somewhere else. Okay, because they are not going to throw those hidden fees at you, and they're going to show you the view from your seats everywhere in the arena. I know that seems like a simple thing, but a lot of other companies don't do it. So Game Time's like, of course we're going to do that. Okay, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On College for $20 off your purchase. Terms do apply. Back here with Phil Lakin, former Baylor student body president, who was there to introduce or to meet President Reagan, give him that jacket on day one of the Ferrell Center. And you had talked about something off air here about the campaign that was behind the Ferrell Center and actually it getting built. Talk to me a little bit more about what that was like around campus to get the funding and get the excitement for this building.
Yeah, the Baylor administration did a really good job of involving the students. Before the Ferrell Center was built, we always got to go, so to speak, to basketball games in the HOT Coliseum, which was way on the other side of Waco, way past where the old football stadium used to be. And it was not nice. It was just a cattle barn. Where they did rodeos, and I just remember a huge ceiling fan that tried to keep the air constant. So luckily basketball is played mostly in the winter. So it was not as humid and hot as it could have been, but it was hot in the HOT Coliseum for sure. So we wanted an on-campus experience. We really wanted for just those activities, not just basketball, but the other big time activities that we were having to squeeze into one or two or three different scenarios at Waco Hall to go into one big 10,000 seat arena. So the administration involved us in a lot of different aspects. I remember banners hanging on Pat Neff Hall, the sub, maybe Waco Hall as well, just promoting the Build It Now campaign. They had this rendering of, an arena with a golden dome on it that kind of looked like the Ferrell Center. Yeah. But, it was a $10 to $15 million project back then, which was, I guess, a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, what
not
we're
now.
Getting right. Yeah, not now. But what we're getting today out of Foster compared to what is in Ferrell is a much different experience. But we really, really thought that we had the best Coliseum and the best arena in the entire nation when that thing opened up. Smelled new. It was new. Everything was just incredible and awesome inside of that facility. And we didn't take it for granted.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about that point of how far away the HOT Coliseum was. I mean, basketball was off campus. Football was off campus.
Right.
Was baseball even on campus at that time?
It feels like it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels like it's still
smaller time, but yeah.
Yeah.
So this was big for the entire university, which has grown even since I started back in 2015. It's grown on both sides of University Park. So right. Tell me about just that aspect of it. It was shiny and it was new, but it was like, finally, it's something for us. Did it feel like the beginning of just growth for Baylor in general, or were you just happy to have it?
We're kids. Yeah, we're kids. So we just didn't probably understand what the strategic plan really was for the university. But thankfully, the university and the people who were serving on the Board of Regents really did understand what it was and what it would mean. So, where they put it isn't just right across the street, right across University Parks. It's kind of across University Parks and then down on the corner. But it really did cause everything at Baylor to be pulled in that direction. So I know they had bigger plans, and I know that was part of the overall strategic plan, but it really did kind of set a boundary marker, if you will, that, hey, the university is now going this way, and we're going to fill in between. And now, even since then, the markers go even further to the east and the south and the north and in a bunch of different directions since Ferrell was built.
Yeah. And when Ferrell opens, it's your senior year. And then you told me you went on to work at Baylor for a long time as well. So,
Right.
so you saw a lot through those years. And Baylor was not a basketball school back then.
Oh, no.
They did make the tournament in '88, the year before, and then didn't for the next 20 years. But what does that do for the basketball program? This is not something you guys are known for. And then all of a sudden you get this, shiny brand new toy on campus. I know it doesn't lead to championships, but in a way, from a recruiting standpoint, it's got to keep Baylor relevant for a while. Is that something you saw in terms of the development of what happened at the Ferrell Center?
Yeah, it sure seems like it had to make a difference for recruiting efforts for the kids who did want to come, rather than walking in and having a coach introduce them to the HOT Coliseum. It was like, hey, how about the fact that you get to play here? Most kids probably were playing in something nicer than the HOT, who decided to come play college ball at Baylor. Now going into the Ferrell Center, if you were a prospect, would be a huge step up, I think, for them. And I don't know, I'm not a basketball athlete. My son is on the dream team though for the women's basketball.
Hey,
Team,
that's big time.
Yep. He's living the dream, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, you just have to think that those are really fun things to bring to the kids, that they're going to be playing in front of thousands of people in a really nice facility on a brand new court with really nice locker rooms and those other accoutrements beyond just what was it, HOT, which was I think they may have had a dressing room that was like a mobile home trailer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So looking at the last days of basketball in the Ferrell Center, at least the structure is going to stay there, but Ronald Reagan coming in day one to basically cut the ribbon on it. I don't know if you know this, but there's something that the Ferrell Center and Disneyland have in common, and that they both had the ribbon cut literally and figuratively by Ronald Reagan. 1955 for Disneyland, 1988 for Ferrell Center. Obviously, very different jobs for President Reagan, President of the United States, versus being a famous actor. But what's interesting about both of those now is we've had Disney World for 50 years, and that's much better, right? Now we're going into something bigger and better, or not bigger, but better than the Ferrell Center with the Foster Pavilion. So looking at that, is there that same kind of excitement for you and for the Baylor community to look at, Ferrell Center was great and it was state of the art when we had it, but it was time for something new. And that's what this is with the Ferrell Center, with the Foster Pavilion. So is there still a good level of excitement there for a Baylor alum to see that?
Oh, complete and utter excitement. I really wanted to get down to campus for the last game at Ferrell, and really wanted to get down for the first game at Foster. I just can't make it all work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I cannot wait for the first time that I walk into this new facility, just to see it, see how it's themed, see how close we can get to the basketball court. In Ferrell, you're quite a ways away if you're on the second level, just because of its bowl shape. But this one just rises straight out and straight up from the court, basically. So I can't wait to experience just everything that we will experience in Foster.
And, for you as a proud Baylor alum too, to see not only that, but like we talked about a few questions ago, the growth of the university, of the athletic department, the success of the athletic department. Is it kind of funny to look back on that day in 1988 and think, boy, we just had no idea what this university was in for the next 35 years?
Yeah, it is. We've just grown in so many ways. Research one status to the status that we've accomplished just being in the Big 12, winning so many Big 12 championships, having an athlete win the Heisman, and then winning the Natty. 4 times now for women and men in basketball. Is that right? 3 women
4 combined. Yep. Incredible.
We couldn't have even fathomed that any of that was possible when I was a kid. Grant Taft was the thing and Mike Singletary was the thing, but we always thought that those were outliers compared to what we've achieved since then. So it does matter. Investing in facilities matters, investing in recruiting, and the other things really do matter. And it brings our entire university up to a place where we all want and aspire it to be, I think.
Yeah. And I know you just said you're not going to be able to make it to the last game or the first game at the Foster, but you've got a son down here. I'm assuming he's going to the first game at the Foster. How cool is that you're like, I was there day one of the Ferrell. This lives on. He's going to be day one at the Foster.
Right. And he'll get to play in the Foster. That's what I'm so envious of. I mean, he gets to practice there, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that he would. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Really, really happy for him. And it's one of, I know the university was recruiting him to come to Baylor. I was pushing him to go to Baylor using all the same devices and tools.
And I just got to say, before I let you go, you're going to call on the university a little bit. Can we get Phil down to these games? Can we send a helicopter or something? I mean, this guy was shaking hands with Ronald Reagan day one. You need to be there. If they can do that for you,
the heli would be smooth. F-16, that would be fine. Whatever they've got, that'd be fine. Yeah.
That'd be nice. Phil Lakin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your support of Baylor over the years and for giving us a great picture with President Reagan. Thank you so much for coming in.
You bet. Really great to see you.
Thanks, Phil. We're going to do a little eulogy for our friend, the Ferrell Center, coming up after this. As the weather gets colder, the offers always stay hot at FanDuel. You don't believe me? Well, hear this. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. The app is so easy to use, guys. I mean, even I could do it. They've got spreads, player props, over-unders, all kinds of stuff. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on because those new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. It is a bittersweet day for Baylor fans as we bid adieu to the Ferrell Center, or at least basketball in the Ferrell Center. I know graduation's still going to be there. Acro and tumbling still going to be there. I believe volleyball will as well. But obviously the main engine is basketball. That's why we go there the most. And that will be moving to the Foster Pavilion in, just about a week and a half here. Look, I have been of the mindset that I was just excited about the Foster. I was like, I don't care about the Ferrell Center being done. It's still going to be there. I just want to go to the Foster. This is finally the upgrade that Baylor needs. And that's true. I talked with Phil Lakin about, the step up that Baylor had as a university, as an athletic department, to have an on-campus basketball arena. And it wasn't that long ago that had to happen, which is kind of crazy. Like, everyone has an on-campus basketball arena. And we kind of take that for granted now. And that is all true. Okay, they needed that for the next step up in that program for the athletics and for basketball. That is also the case now. Baylor needs something like the Foster Pavilion to take that next step, to be a new blood, blue blood, whatever you want to call them in basketball, to really put a brand into basketball. And if football continues to be this way, to truly be a basketball school. Because this has every opportunity to be a powerhouse in men's and women's basketball with the facilities, and that now includes the Foster Pavilion, the recruits that are coming in, the championship banners, the coaches on either side. This is truly a busting place still when it comes to basketball, and I still don't think it's hit its full potential, and I think it will in the Foster Pavilion. And that is something that is so exciting for this university and for these basketball programs and for the prospective students that are coming in to be able to come to a homey place when it comes to basketball, not just a cavernous arena that we can't sell out. Do I have some gripes with how the ticketing is going to go? Yeah. I don't like the proposal of cutting student tickets and not having enough, or not having a lot of faculty and staff tickets, because those people are pretty rabid too. And I just hope it all works out. I'm gonna show a modicum of trust here to see if that all works out. But it's a bittersweet week, as I mentioned, for Baylor fans. And even with how curmudgeon-y I was of like, hey, let's just get out of here. it kind of hit me this week that I won't be at the game tonight, so I won't be at another basketball game at the Ferrell Center. That has always been a cool place for me for a couple of different reasons, whether it was broadcasting a game or sitting on press row or sitting in the student section in a rabid crowd, or sometimes just going on a weeknight by myself and just hanging up in the rafters where no one was, up in the nosebleeds, and really just enjoying Baylor basketball and great basketball, talent on display. That was one of my favorite things to do as a student and even post grad. That, if you had a tough day or you've just had a lot going on or you're stressed out, to just go to the basketball game by yourself. If you're a person like me who hates talking to people, it's perfect. And I am going to miss that. I'm going to miss just how bland and basic it is, to be honest with you, because it was our bland and basic. It really was. And I'm so excited for the Foster, but it is kind of a bittersweet moment to say goodbye to the Ferrell Center forever for basketball. And I know that basketball is going to have even better memories at the Foster Pavilion. So obviously Ronald Reagan opened us up back in 1988. And I think a good message for the team today is, last time out at the Ferrell Center, let's go win one for the Gipper. And let's win one for Scott Drew and for Nikki Collin and for Kim Mulkey and for Phil Lakin and for Drake Toll and T-Rex and Brandon McKinnon and, Andrew Cribb and all the great people that come through, that listen to this show, that go out to the Ferrell Center. Win it for the kid who dresses up in the Baylor tuxedo. Win it for the guy who has hit the Mattson financial pot. Win it for Terry Teagle and Pierre Jackson and Tweety Carter and Lace Darius Dunn and Odyssey Sims and Brittany Griner and Nina Davis and Cameron Stewart and all the great folks that have come through those doors the last 35 years and have poured it all out there on that court or in the locker room or in the stands or the kids with the towels or the dream team or the courtside players or the bear pit or the PA announcers, or for John Morris and Derek Smith and Bruce Geetson and Lori Fogelman and Pat Nunley. For all of those people, the people who are going to be there at the Foster Pavilion and those who can't be there, one more for them. Because not a lot of people in the nation love the Ferrell Center. Nobody outside of Baylor loves the Ferrell Center, but those people love the Ferrell Center. I can speak for one. I'm excited about the new place, but I love the Ferrell Center. So let's just give it one more ride, and we'll see you guys all at the Foster Pavilion. But to you, Ferrell, one more time, let's raise a glass and toast to 35 years of good memories, of downfalls, the worst scandals in the history of the sport, and to the greatest rebound in history of college sports, and to all the championship banners that have gone up there, and the players who have put their blood, sweat, and tears out there, and the coaches who elevated these programs, this athletic department, and this university. Cheers. And Merry Christmas from all of us here at Locked On Baylor.